Socially distant greetings to you all. Here's a quick walk through your upcoming assignment that's called the influence analysis. So here we go. It is worth 30% of your grade. It has to be 1,500 words and be turned in by April 3rd on Canvas through Turnitin. So it will be due by 11:59. You have to choose one of the readings from the course and then write an analysis of 3 influences that informed the text that you chose and the influence that this text had on 3 more recent texts. So basically you'll be tracing the flow of influences through the 7 texts that you choose. This is a schema of kind of a structural overview of your assessment. So the 3 influence pieces, your unit of study reading, and the citations that mention, the works that mention your unit of study reading. So you have to find the originals for all of the 7 pieces that you're using to write this assignment. And you have to analyze each case of influence. Was it affirmation, rejection, criticism, or adaptation? Let me walk you through it. So basically, the idea is that all scholarly work draws on the influence of prior concepts, research, and arguments. It can affirm or reject existing paradigms, as well as offer new evidence and make new claims and analysis. And so significant scholarly books and articles have influences on communities of readers. Sometimes it happens across disciplines. Sometimes certain disciplines adopt certain texts as their own, even though they originated in a different discipline. So it is very interesting to see this flow of knowledge and ideas happening across disciplines and across time, right? There are a lot of older readings that are still relevant now, and there are a lot of readings of scholarly works that are being composed as we speak that will be relevant for years to come. And sometimes they can cause controversy or outrage. Sometimes they change how a problem is conceived, right? So anything that is being published is can potentially be highly influential for the future works. And so in this influence analysis, we are tracing this evolution of thought through the readings. So basically what you have to do is choose 3 influences, look for references in the article that are important to the argument that the author is making. And then the next thing you have to do is find the original source of the 3 referenced works and read through it enough to get a sense of what is being borrowed by the author of your unit of study reading from those source readings. And you have to write a concise analysis of how each of these 3 cited articles informed the argument in the reading. Let me walk you through a quick example here. So for week, I think 8, you have to do Thomas Nail, What is an Assemblage? It's really important that the reading that you choose, you do not do a provocation on, right? It's kind of straightforward. If you did a provocation on that reading, you cannot choose your reading for your influence assessment. So you go to the Canvas, and this is a screenshot of your Canvas, what it looks like. So here, it's actually week 9, Machines and Assemblages. Here you can find the reading by Thomas Nail, What is an Assemblage, published in the journal called Substance. So this is the full citation. If you press on this button, you can download it and you can read it. All right, so also if you may consider looking for it in the library. You don't have to download it from eReserve. It's easily accessible for you there, but you can also enter it in the library and search engine and search for it there. These are the works cited. So let me just quickly show you the reading itself. So here's what the Nail reading looks like. What is an assemblage? Thomas Nail. And this is the original text. So we're scrolling all the way down to the references. There aren't many works cited. Now I want you to keep in mind that in some works, some of your course readings are presented as chapters, and there is no work cited at the end, in which case you would have to get a hold of the book, whether electronically or perhaps physically in the library, although I do not recommend doing that. And you would have to find the works cited or the bibliography referenced in your reading. But this one, thankfully, has a works cited present, and there's also really few authors, as you see, because this is a highly theoretical piece. Thomas Nail is only referencing Manuel de Landa. There's Gilles Deleuze and Felix Guattari, and there's Hegel. So these are the only works that he's citing, which kind of speaks to the importance of these scholarly works in influencing this particular reading. So basically what Thomas Nail is doing in this particular reading is he's trying to formalize the assemblage theory that was proposed by Deleuze and Guattari in their work A Thousand Plateaus, for the reason that Deleuze and Guattari have never really formally defined what an assemblage is. They wrote about assemblages and they used assemblages to analyze a lot of things, but they never actually defined what an assemblage means. And so Thomas Nail is making an attempt to formally define assemblage so that other scholars can then use his definition of an assemblage in their further work. So this is what he's doing here, and he's talking about, so he starts with the etymology of the word assemblage. He starts with talking about how the agencement used by Deleuze and Guattari in French doesn't really correspond to the English term of assemblage, and he goes on and on explaining what an assemblage is and how we can theorize on the nature of an assemblage and then use it in the further work. So that is what Nail is doing there. This is his works cited list. As you see, it's short. There's a couple of works by Deleuze and Guattari, and then Manuel de Landa and Hegel, which are both of which are philosophers. De Landa, he rethought the concept of assemblage a bit, so he deviates from the traditional Deleuze and Guattarian understanding of this concept in his work. His work, The New Philosophy of Society, Assemblage Theory and Social Complexity, he actually rethinks what assemblages mean. And also there's a lot of originals, so keep in mind that Nail is a relatively new piece. It came out in 2017. So this is what you do. So you have to pick 3 of those works cited if you were doing this piece. Then read them and see which ideas Nail draws on from these works cited and why they are important. The next step would be finding the 3 works that cite your readings. And you do that by searching for citations using Google Scholar. So you find the most salient 3 articles or books and analyze how each of these uses the assigned piece, draws on the assigned piece, maybe argues with the assigned piece. So here's what you do. So this is what it looks like. This is Google Scholar, Thomas Nail. He's at the University of Denver. And here's Google Scholar. So this is what his Google Scholar profile looks like. As you see, he has quite a few citations, but he's a young scholar, and that's why his citation count isn't through the roof, right? It's 1,000 times since 2015, which is impressive, but it's still not 200,000 once like Bruno Latour has. And here you can see his work, What is an Assemblage? And you can see it's been cited 154 times since 2017, which means it's really influential. It's really, really influential. So this is how you access it, and you can see all of the citations. And here you can see how this work on assemblages has informed many works in other disciplines, right? So you can see immersion at work, affect and power in post-Fordist work cultures, policy, right? What is policy assemblage? There's a lot of work that came out in philosophy that draws on his work. There's e-border security assemblages, which is, I'm sure, really exciting work on surveillance and security. Affective assemblages in consciousness and cognition. reassembling activism, activating assemblages, which is also really interesting if you're looking at digital activism. Then there's some big data analysis using his assemblage theory, new materialism and ancient urbanisms, border control again, assemblage analysis, analyzing narrative data. So as you see, this work was influential in a whole variety of different disciplines. And so you can pick whichever interests you. It's better, of course, to pick some of the more influential pieces. So you can click on each of the pieces to see how many times it was cited. But keep in mind that, for instance, with regard to this piece, it's very new. It just came out a year ago, so it might not have the number of citations. Right, but still, so this is how you access them. You can also access them through the library. And this is what you have to do. And you have to pick 3 pieces that cite your original piece and analyze them as well. So again, what you're doing here is you're analyzing each case of influence, affirmation, rejection, criticism, adaptation, development, and you have to develop an argument about the significance of this reading within the broader tradition of themes in technocultural analysis. In the case with Nail actually does a very important theoretical work that had to be done many years ago. And so he kind of fills the void of there not being a theoretical formal definition of an assemblage. And that's how he draws on the traditional work by Deleuze and Guattari, but also on the work of other people who do not necessarily agree with Deleuze and Guattari. And so this is your work in the genre of a review article. So you try to evaluate the key themes that are sustained through all 7 articles you're using, sustained or maybe interrupted, right? So it doesn't have to be, they don't all have to be saying the same thing. As long as you see the logic of the argument being advanced or refuted or rejected or criticized. So it's usually helpful to write this analysis in paragraphs, and each paragraph can summarize and analyze each of your 7 readings, right? And then you write an introduction to summarize, to present your argument, and then you write a conclusion. And once again, it's due on April 3rd. It has to be 1,500 words. To keep us all on track, I am asking for you to submit your selected readings for the influence and assignment piece on Canvas by March 27th. I have created a little quiz. It's kind of a fill-in-the-blank essay box type quiz that is now on Canvas. Here's what it looks like. So it's under quizzes, and it has only 3 questions. So let me just quickly show you. Quickly go on Canvas to make sure you see where it's at. So it is under quizzes, influence assignment, and it has 3 questions. I'm curious which reading you chose for your influence analysis assignment. And then I'm curious about which 3 influences you will be which 3 influences you will be analyzing. And then the final question is, which 3 texts did your reading influence? So I would like for you to think of the ones that you selected for this assignment. So this is all. Without further ado, I look forward to reading your responses. Thank you for keeping on track with our course timeline in these tempestuous times, and I hope everyone is well and safe. Bye.